Our first cruise was almost our last. Did I say we aren't really cruise people? We actually didn't know this. And blowing a week of your vacation and the money to find out is not fun. But let me back up a little and explain how we found ourselves on a cruise. Our friends Tom and Mary were heading to Port Canaveral to embark on a 6-day or a 6-night Caribbean cruise with stops in ports in Jamaica, Cayman Islands, and the Bahamas. They were seasoned cruisers and knew exactly what they liked and wanted. They had a 12-year-old daughter, Macy, and she would be bringing her friend Hannah along for company. So they wanted a kid-friendly cruise with a youth group and tons of activities to keep them both occupied and safe. And of course, a warm weather cruise, because who the heck would want to do one somewhere in the cold? Mary said, "Why don't you join us?" And that's how we came to be on the Norwegian cruise aboard one of their biggest ships, the Epic. The Epic is a floating hotel for 4,100 people with 19 decks, including an entirely private, luxurious deck for those who own or upgrade to the Haven. Besides the typical sundry amount of restaurants, buffets, fitness centers, and Wi-Fi centers, which seem basic in most of the places we travel, the other things that caught my attention were 2 pools, 5 hot tubs, 3 multi-story slides, an adult area complete with pool. Phew! As we are not fond lovers of being with a lot of children, I was happy to know there might be a place I could hide away from noisy families. They also offered many children and teen areas, unimportant to me, but more compelling for me were a bowling alley, a casino, a jogging track, a sports complex, video arcade, and a spa including thermal water therapies. Now, I was unlikely to use any of these amenities or participate in any of the activities, but it was an added incentive to maybe do something different on this vacation. The main point in us on going on this cruise was to spend more time with our friends. Norwegian Cruise Line, from what I could tell, had one very distinct difference from other cruise lines. They had free dining, meaning there was no set times for your meals. Instead, you were free to feast whenever you like. We were to learn that this difference would become a huge bone of contention once we experienced it and understood what that exactly entails. You see, they only have one buffet area, albeit huge, and pretty much the only place to get breakfast. So between high time, pretty much 7 and 9 a.m., almost 4,000 people must come and eat at the buffet. Now, when you are serving yourself, getting up to visit the egg station, then the fruit station, and don't forget the coffee station, most breakfast times would take about an hour. This led to a huge backlog of people, and so there were huge lineups for food and for tables. We were traveling as a group of 7, and it was hard to get seated together, so we mostly split into 4 and 3 for this meal. But honestly, there were times when finding space for the 3 of us was very hard. I quickly came to realize why planning dining times are so liked by so many, with the guaranteed seats and dining companions and no fighting for a place at the trough. There are things one gets to know when you cruise. As a first-timer, one is really at a deficit. There were many shows on the ship, and besides being told by our friends to reserve the Cirque du Soleil act and dinner ahead of the cruise, we were silly and embarked upon this ship expecting to be able to sign up for dinners and theaters over the course of that week. That was after I figured out how to use the in-house reservation system on our TV. So later on that first day, as we went to reserve our meals at the restaurants for our numerous days afloat, the only available times at most of the specialty dining areas was 9 p.m. What? When I'm on vacation, I'm usually hard-pressed to be awake at this time, never mind eating a meal. I was not only disappointed, but angry about this. I had spent the couple of months before the cruise browsing over all the literature Norwegian put out, and they did not once mention the importance of pre-booking. Mary just looked at us and muttered, newbie, because after all, they had made their reservations for everything months before setting sail. As for the entertainment, I will say they had some really fantastic acts, and I was able to sign up for a couple, but there were a couple of shows I would have liked to have seen. But they were all booked solid even before embarkation day. The one saving grace is that Sue, having had special needs, had contacted their special needs department and had a contact person before she even stepped upon the ship. They were able to work some magic so we could eat earlier in the night, between 5 and 6, because Sue couldn't wait that late at night. So 2 pools I had read and many hot tubs. I packed my bathing suit and swimming accessories, including my beach bag for the many hours I imagine I'd be in the pool side, soaking in the rays and dunking in the pool to cool off. The reality was so far from this. Firstly, I was to learn the pools were at the top of the ship where it is extremely windy. Now, I'm the type of person it must be at least 30 degrees Celsius with humidex before I will even think of putting on shorts. So a swim requires even hotter temperatures to lure me into the water, and if there is any sign of a breeze, even at 25 degrees Celsius, I generally am very cold and can get blue fingernails. So I hit the deck and wondered whether I should have packed a coat. The breeze was enough to keep me in long pants and long sleeves throughout the cruise. Of course, the idea of 2 pools was also really a stretch in their description. They were really very small, what I refer to as postage stamp size. You couldn't really swim in them, so they were so small, but rather you could stand with 6 of your closest friends up to chest high water. The only difference between the pools and hot tubs was the level of water, which was also chest high when you sat in the hot tub. When I actually thought about the weight of water and what it entails to carry that across the ocean, I wasn't really surprised by the small size of them, at least logically. And if you were to venture beyond the frigid breezes and climb the tall ladder, it did look like fun to slide down a multi-story slide into the postage stamp, the true use of these pools. But thinking this vacation would include some good sunbathing and splashing was a hugely disappointing reality. And the slide was closed after the first day due to high winds out in the open ocean. Go figure. Given the hugeness of the ship and the amount of people on it, I was surprised to actually have found some privacy in areas where Sue and I enjoyed an afternoon or two together. I found out you just had to climb higher and higher beyond the bars and line dancing on deck, and there are small balconies all over the ship. When you hunkered down below the balcony, you were safe from the winds and could enjoy some sun and a good book. I also must commend both the entertainment and the food. All the specialty restaurants were very good. However, it was the entertainment that was excellent. We watched a Cirque du Soleil show in the space of about a 12 by 12 area they had as a stage, and they did all sorts of acrobats and flying trapeze numbers. I held my breath a few times, as their timing and proximity to the audience, meaning me, was so close it was extremely risky for a mishap. Their shows and entertainers were overall excellent, and I enjoyed the shows we went to. We did spend an inordinate amount of time at the family karaoke bar, as Macy and Hannah wanted to sing. However, they agonized each night over choosing a song, and when they did, they would chicken out. So yes, Mary and I eventually got up with Macy, and we sang back up while snapping our fingers so Macy could have her moment of karaoke. Another star was born that night, and it only took her 6 nights to work up to it. Ah, the ports. We had something to look forward to. I had even planned an excursion at one of them, a half day of snorkeling at a reef. I was so very excited. However, I was soon to learn that actually going into port is a rather happenstance occurrence on cruises. Apparently, seasoned cruisers are aware of this. Weather and ocean conditions, especially so far offshore since the boats are so big and have to be in deeper water, are often cancelled. One woman told me she had sailed 6 times and never been able to embark at the Cayman Islands. As we were disembarking the ship, the woman was gleaming from ear to ear. I considered ourselves lucky having heard her experience. But it was short-lived, and I was soon disappointed. As we reached shore, all the excursions were cancelled that day because of the rough ocean conditions. So much for snorkeling. This just became another part of the vacation that was disappointing. So all in all, we did not enjoy this vacation and decided we were not cruise-type people. The trip had served its purpose for us, which was to spend time with our friends Tom and Mary. In fact, I understood why they enjoy cruises so much as parents. There are a ton of activities every day for the children and youth. Macy and Hannah were entertained and kept safe, while Mary and Tom enjoyed adult time. Macy and Hannah were able to experience more independence wandering around on their own on the ship, where they never would have been able to at home in safety. Truly, if I had children, I really think this would be the type of vacation I would take for the family. But when Mary turned and said, "We're going on a cruise to the Dominica and Grand Turks," we quickly said, "Enjoy." But even as I write this, we are planning another cruise, this time to Alaska. We are hoping our experience is much better. We are doing a combination land and cruise vacation. We are going to try it again on a bit of a smaller ship with more knowledge and experience, as we are no longer newbie cruisers. We hope to see beautiful landscape and some wildlife. We did invite Tom and Mary, who just said, "A cold weather cruise? No, thank you." So truth is, our first cruise was almost our last cruise, but not quite.